Everyone, Joe Waxman here. And in this video, I want to look at the conjunction of Chiron and Venus. And guys, I just want to say one added bonus of watching my videos is that I will never add a musical intro. That you can count on because they're always so stupid and annoying, and I hate them, and I always fast forward because they don't add anything. They're just like, it's like everyone thinks you have to do it, so everyone copies everyone else, and it's like, it's just dumb. It's like, okay, I didn't click on this video to get some stupid music. I want information, so just give me the information. Cut with all the crap. So yeah, that's what you're gonna get with me. You're just gonna get all the information, none of the crap, none of the stupid nonsense, none of that. Okay, it's just awful. It adds zero. In fact, it detracts from every single video that has a musical intro. I'm like, you're an idiot, you're dumb, and you're detracting from your video. Just cut with the stupid bullshit, right? Okay, so never get that with me. Okay, no bullshit. All right. So what is Chiron and Venus? So Venus is one of the two great benefics, Jupiter and Venus. Venus is a bit more, I don't know, small, I guess you could say. It deals more with materialism. It's luxury. It is feminine, female, creative expression. For men, it represents female. It often represents relationships. It represents luxury, materialism, things we enjoy doing, like good food, entertainment, joys, opinions, indulgence. It's a very quite indulgent planet. And a strong Venus can make somebody, if it's a woman, it'll make a beautiful woman. If it's a man, it can make a man very good looking, but slightly effeminate, sometimes gay or bisexual, right? But it does bring good things, especially in the way of materialism, and it can create overindulgence depending on where it's placed. But it's very creative, very aesthetic, very beautiful. And for arts and creativity, it is excellent. And also for any sort of material gain and sense of beauty and whatnot. Yeah, so that is basically, and relationships, obviously, especially for men. Well, for both people, but for men more because it's feminine. In any case. And then Chiron is the subject of this series. Chiron has an unusual orbit between Saturn and Uranus. It is that Saturn when it's in Libra, it's closer to Saturn, and then when it's in Aries, it's closer to Uranus. So it makes that weird elliptical orbit. It has rings. It's a minor planet, but I've also heard that it's oddly shaped, like irregular shape. And then it also has a coma, which is the tail of a comet. So it's like part comet, part asteroid, and part minor planet with rings. So you can see that it just wants to defy all definitions. It's really in a league of its own. It's a class of its own. It breaking from all boundaries, breaking free. And there are positives and negatives that can come with that. It's most often known as the wounded healer because of the mythology surrounding it, in that Chiron was a centaur, but he was rejected by his mother originally because Chiron has a full human body, but he's got the rear of a horse. Like, that's unusual because usually it's like, horse's body and then the torso of a man is the centaur. Chiron, even in mythology, is completely unique, completely different, completely on his own, and rejected by his mother. So there's the initial wound of rejection. And then he becomes a teacher, an astrologer, kind of a shaman or mystic, right? Very wise and helpful. Like, he really taught a lot of people. So there's that level. And also a healer. And then he gets shot in the ankle by a poison arrow that he himself created, helping Hercules, and then he dies. So there's this multiple, kind of story, rejection, teacher, healing, and then finally dead by wound. So it's very kind of complex, and Chiron represents different things to depending on the aspects. When it's well aspect or conjunct a planet, it tends to be more of a creative, mythological, kind of extremely colorful character, or like even comical caricature, comic kind of book, like superhero-esque type persona that it embodies, and is exceptionally helpful for any sort of creativity because of that out-of-box creative, colorful characterism. But then it can also give, negatively aspected. It can give wounds, it can give rejection, it can make somebody weird. You don't want this kind of extreme expression translated into somebody's looks, because then they're going to look very abnormal, right? That only happens when there's a bad, like a inconjunct or a square or something like that, semi-square, anything like that, any difficult aspect. Right. So in any case, that's basically Chiron and Venus. So Chiron together with Venus, it's going to create very colorful, at least with the conjunction, colorful creative expression, because Venus being a planet of creativity, great benefic, beauty. So this is going to be unusual looks, unusual expression, creative, like very out of the box creativity, things like that. It's going to really lend its hand to the body, the fullness of the creative expression, versus Mercury, which is more the outer expression, the form, right? Yeah. So in any case, let's look at some examples. So in Aries, we have Renee Zellweger. And she was the best example that with a good birth chart that I could find. Really pretty close conjunction, Venus, Chiron, in the 7th, moving into the 8th house, close enough to North Node. And this is pretty prominent, actually, and her Venus is pretty slow. 3 days past retro station. So yeah, it just went retrograde. So yeah. She's a pretty, well-known actress. Not like, I don't know whether she's A level. I want to say like A level, but I don't really know what constitutes A level or not. But anyway, she's a very well-known actress, extremely successful, and she has, unusual looks. I would say, like, she's pretty, but like in a unique way, but not in an off, nothing. There's nothing negative about the way she looks. Like Chiron's not negatively impacting. I mean, of course, her Venus is in Aries, so it's not, it's opposite. It's domicile in Libra, so there's that, is retrograde, but she does have like this kind of, I don't know, she's got her own thing going and it works for her. Like she does it pretty well. It's moving to the 8th house, so there is some like that ability to play those darker, heavier roles, which I think she does in some of her movies. I'm not really that caught up on the the details of Renee Zellweger, but she also has a stationary Mars, which is pretty good, right? And that's trine moon's in the 12th in Leo, so that is really a great addition to her acting ability, because moon is the expression. Moon in Leo in the 12th is great for acting, right? 12th house, dealing with a lot of anything behind the camera, film, photography, movies, cinema, anything like that would be very 12th house, as well as any sort of creativity. But the stationary Mars would help her with especially trying the moon would help her with sort of action type stuff, anything like that, initiative, starting projects. Any case, she's got a strong 1st house as well. Pluto, Jupiter, I mean, it's conjunct South Node, and also Uranus is conjunct South Node, but it is not in great dignity. So she can play some darker roles, some heavier roles. She'd be a good bad guy. Also, Saturn's not in great dignity here, but she does well for herself, obviously. Pluto is trine Mercury, so in the ninth. So also her expression is going to be potent, powerful, and actually Mercury ruling Virgo, exalted in Virgo, is bonifying this Pluto and Jupiter by extension and South Node. So that's quite good. In any case, that's Renee Zellweger. Definitely helps her with her acting ability, I think, for sure. Yeah. Gives her more, allows her to play more expressive roles, great bigger range of characters. All right, who else has it in Aries? Jennifer Aniston, Kate Blanchett, Chris Martin, Ava Longoria, Pharrell Williams, Floyd Mayweather Jr., and Linda Goodman. Linda Goodman is one of the original astrologers, right? So it's good for that. All that. All right, let's go to Taurus. And we're going to go with somebody very dark and devilish, Anton LaVey. Anton LaVey is an occultist. He was involved in the secret societies. I don't know that much details, but he was basically the modern father of Satanism. Believe it or not. Yep, he was. All right, and let's just briefly see if we can understand why that happened. So first of all, Aries Sun conjunct Aries Uranus. So pretty independent-minded, very radical, persona, initiating, starting, right? Aries always loves to start things. So starting a satanic cult, right? All right, so the second thing is North Node conjunct Venus, Venus conjunct Chiron. Venus is in Taurus, so it's in domicile, so it's a strong Venus. And what is Venus? Venus is indulgence. What is Satanism? Worship of the ego. That's really what it is, because when it comes down to it, there's only two things. It's either you follow God's plan, God's path, which is the soul, live for the soul, right? Or you're living for the ego and you're living to serve the self, and they want to be gods themselves individually, right? That's different than recognizing that we are all God. They want to be individual gods. That's the ego. That's what Satanism is, right? In its essence. It's not belief in some deity who is the storified thing. They know that. What it really is they want to be gods individually. If you talk to any Satanist, that's what you'll get from them. They want to defeat God as individuals. They want to become like God, and powerful like God. And Aleister Crowley, who was his predecessor, who was a great, occultist, great, well known, was also like going down that dark path of which led to Satanism. He called his own religion Thelema, but he had his Venus in Libra, as you can see, and Sun, weak Sun. LaVey has a strong Sun, but it's any case, the Venus, and then the North Node, and then the Chiron. Chiron is making him very colorful, very caricature, like a comic book character. Like he's becoming his Venus, his very strong Venus, which he's also obsessed over, is becoming like extremely colorful and unique and like a comic book villain, right? He is like a comic book villain. If you look at any images of him, he has this he's a caricature, right? And the Chiron has that quality. It's completely standout, right? Completely unique. South Node in Scorpio, of course, 9th house, religion, philosophy, Scorpio. That's perfectly, makes sense here. Lucifer also is known as the morning star. And actually, what's interesting is this is an evening star, but the point is, it's not whether it's a morning star or evening star, because I've seen that both. That's not the relevance. The relevance is that morning star is Venus. Well, there's morning star Mercury too, but Lucifer is related to Venus. So Satanism definitely is Venus, and because of Venus's indulgence, right? It's indulging the ego. That's what it is. That's what Venus represents in its lower expression. So a strong Venus that's not very evolved, it's just going to be all about, making money, indulging the ego, having sex, being, laying on the couch, taking it all in, not working, right? Venus is kind of lazy. And so that's what you get here with this kind of thing. It's in the third house, so it's in his intellect. Jupiter also is in Gemini, so it's not very evolved. This is not a high-minded Jupiter, right? So Saturn is very strong. Saturn's the ascendant lord. It's in the 11th house. It's in Capricorn, so there's some great discipline going on. But 11th house for groups and networks, so he's the leader of a group, right? And then, of course, Neptune in Virgo. Virgo is not good for Neptune because Neptune co-rules Pisces. So Neptune is in detriment, debilitated. So he's lying to people. Not only that, right? Mercury he has no problem lying to people, right? Deceiving people, being very imaginative, right? Imagining a new religion, right? Mars is trine Pluto, so he's no problem with darkness either. Trines are very easy. So like a person with a trine is just like they have those two planets get along great. They're like, Pluto, I love Pluto. It's it's domination, control, power, masterminding the whole, everyone, everything. Sure, I love that. It's good stuff, right? That's at least from his Mars. So Mars is the initiative factor. So he can initiate that kind of thing without any qualms, right? But Saturn is square Uranus. Uranus is in hot-headed Aries. Saturn is in very disciplined, structured Capricorn. And he's more Saturnian because Saturn is his ascendant lord, right? So he's at odds. There's a certain square against, like, he wants control, he wants authority. He's not really down with the rebel rousers, but he himself is one at the same time. He's very rebellious. That's the thing about squares. They occupy both sides at different times, and there's just a conflict, an internal conflict. Saturn square Mercury, Saturn square Uranus is very rebellious, right? But at the same time, they want to, when they're on the more Saturn side, they want to crush rebellion. So anyway, as a leader, he's demanding control. As an outsider, he's demanding rebellion. In any case, that is Anton LaVey, short and sweet. I don't want to spend too much time on any of these because I'm on a bit of a time crunch, a little bit. So who else has it in Taurus? Kanye West, Jessica Alba, Che Guevara, Anne Frank, Ronaldinho, the soccer player, football, I guess they call it in the rest of the world. June Carter Cash, who's Johnny Cash's wife, also a country singer. Eric Andre, comedian, and Allen Ginsberg, poet. So really, really, I mean, you can see like a wide range of people who it's only making them a bigger caricature, right? It's very colorful, very unique, and breaking the mold. It makes people stand out. Let's go to Gemini. And we're going with the master of modern design, Giorgio Armani. Giorgio Armani. And what do you think Venus is in relation to fashion and design? It's everything. Venus is everything in relation to fashion and design, right? And he has Venus conjunct Chiron. So, I mean, I just want to like smash this idea, like just like put a like, I don't know how many pound hammer and just crush the crap out of it. This idea that Chiron is going to somehow damage things that it touches. Yes, bad aspects, of course, to any planet, especially any malefic, but conjunction, forget it. Chiron is good conjunct the planet. Chiron is good conjunct Venus or any other planet. I mean, it adds dimension and quality and uniqueness and creativity. I mean, you can't argue it. Giorgio Armani is the top designer. He's worth $9 billion. I mean, the guy is like a legend of modern design. And he has his Venus in Gemini conjunct Chiron in the 11th house. Conjunct the 11th house class. I mean, come on. Like, you can't argue with this. Got a great 12th house for creativity, Moon, ruled by Cancer. Leo ascendant, Sun in the 12th. So for creativity, that's excellent. Venus is ruling as MC, so conjunct Uranus and Taurus conjunct the MC. So Taurian Venusian career, which is very evident in design, and Gemini. So Gemini giving Taurus and Gemini, great pair. Remember I said Taurus needs Gemini, so that's a good combination. Saturn's in good dignity here in Aquarius, right? Neptune, but Jupiter also trine Venus, and that is good. Even though Jupiter's okay in Libra, it's not great, and Venus is okay in Gemini, but generally because of the Taurus Gemini relationship, it's actually does okay, does not bad, can do quite good. There's Jupiter, Venus, that's good. Jupiter ruling the 5th house, very creative house, 8th house. Interestingly, Giorgio Armani is openly bisexual, and Venus is in Gemini. Gemini, the twins, the most changeable, mutable sign, mutable air, and also Venus, the femininity. And then he's very feminine anyway with all his Cancer placements. Strong, Moon is in domicile, so that's interesting, right? Jupiter square Moon, that's not bad because Jupiter and Moon are great together, and Moon is very strong in Cancer, and Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, so that's an interesting square. Just let me check here, see. Nothing much is going on there, but yeah, I mean, this Venus Chiron in the 11th is certainly not hurting his design sensibilities at all. It helps it a lot, in fact. And who else has it in Gemini? Robert Pattinson, Mr. Glittery Vampire, Megan Fox, Adele, Lionel Messi, another soccer player, Michael Cera, and Lena Dunham. Let's go to Cancer. Mr. Tom Jones, Vegas. I'm not going to sing his songs because, I just want to say, like, I have my Sun and Venus in Gemini, and then my Moon is square in Virgo. So it's like, I always want to be like really playful and lighthearted and jokey. And then my Moon's like, no, don't. Because it's in, Virgo is very kind of limiting, what's the word? I don't know, negating. I forget the word, but and the square, so it's like that conflict. I want to, but then I'm like, anyway. So if you have your Sun and Moon square, there's going to be that internal conflict. In any case, this is Tom Jones. Gemini Sun, almost the same as me. Gemini Moon, right? So he doesn't have any internal conflict. He's all Gemini. He just let it all fly, right? Just be, crazy Tom Jones. I have no idea if he's crazy or not, but maybe he is. He's got a lot of 6th house, and Tom Jones performed in Vegas every week for years, and that's a very 6th house thing. If anyone's going to be like performing regularly, like regular radio show, TV show, daytime talk show, whatever, anything that's regular, that's going to be 6th house thing, right? So if somebody has a strong 6th house, you can be like, oh, well, you can be a regular in whatever field they're in, right? That's one of the things about the 6th house, right? So he's got his Venus conjunct Chiron and Mars in Cancer. Venus is stationary and square the nodes, so his Venus is extremely important to him. Venus, obviously, relating to the voice, Taurus. So Jupiter and Saturn and Uranus in Taurus. That's difficult. It's kind of tricky, but I would say it's kind of like fourth whole sign house. It's 3rd quadrant. So you can make a case third, fourth. I mean, even though the fourth cusp is in Gemini, it's kind of tricky. But bring in some fourth house qualities there. And fourth house also relates to like an establishment, a building, a brick and mortar kind of thing, right? So that's relevant. Venus also is the exaltation lord of Pisces, so that's relating to voice. Second house cusp, right? And Venus square the nodes, north node in Libra, activating nodes, south node in Aries, so activating Mars. But yeah, this Venus is very powerful in the sixth house. That's why he's like, and he, again, Tom Jones, he's like this, he's straight out of a comic book, right? Not in a bad way, in a good way. Like, I mean, I just mean to say that like he is a caricature, right? He is a character. He has this kind of iconic quality that's unique and stands out and is irreplaceable, one of a kind, an exaggerated kind of way. And that's very Chironic, right? And, the way he sings, and it's just, yeah. It's not unusual to be loved by anybody. Sorry. Had to break the mold there. All right. That's kind of this thing that Chiron has, where it's just it's this fictional element that's really unique in a good way, when it's conjunct, when it's not badly aspected. All right, so yeah, that's Tom Jones in Cancer. I used to sing in a band. It's just that I restrict myself. All right, let's go to Leo. All right, who else has it in Cancer? Azalea Banks, Lizzo, Raquel Welch, Soulja Boy, and Nancy Sinatra. So actually a lot of singers, right? Interestingly. Let's go to Leo. Werner Herzog. He's not actually that well known. Like his name might sound familiar, but he was a German filmmaker, and he was more like an avant-garde, like indie filmmaker. Pretty, as for like movie lovers, movie buffs, kind of legendary, well known, highly respected, but in mainstream movies, less so, right? But in any case, extremely successful. Very good movie. I actually don't know if I've ever seen one of his movies, but I mean, people love his movies, so it's got to be good. Fifth house Venus and Chiron in Leo, so that's very relevant. Aries ascendant, Mars in Virgo, conjunct Neptune. That's that's quite good, especially for like combining creativity with sort of editorial mind frame. Sixth house as well. So that sixth house additionally can be behind the scenes, right? Major Uranus looks pretty slow. Let's check. 4 days from station, so pretty slow. Uranus is conjunct Saturn. That's much more versus the square when Uranus and Saturn are conjunct. It's much more like flippy, not so much tension. Like sometimes a bit more Uranian, unique, rebellious, sometimes more conservative, rule bound, right? And excuse me, has an Aquarian vibe, obviously, because they both rule Aquarius, right? So it's kind of like unique within certain kind of structure, framework, boundaries. Getting along much better than with the square Uranus and Saturn. But Uranus is square the nodes, so this is something that's very important for him to to accomplish. Media, third house, conjuncting the third house cusp. Uranian kind of media, like, so very unique, very different, very independent, kind of shocking media kind of expression. Moon and Jupiter, this is excellent. Moon and Jupiter in the fourth house. So I'm sure like his sets, his movie sets, his very physical aesthetic and sensibilities were profound and beautiful and just top notch, because Moon is in domicile, Jupiter is exalted, and together they really the emotionality that's coming from this is really, really excelled. So that's pretty interesting. You could probably make some pretty moving, touching cinema, as well as some quite excellent sets and things like that, the physicality of it. All right. So that's Werner Herzog. And who else has it in Leo? Selena Gomez, Geraldo Rivera, and Robbie Robertson. Let's go to Virgo. We're gonna go with Chevy Chase. Chevy Chase, kind of legendary comedian, actor, comic actor. His National Lampoon's Vacation movies are some of the all-time favorites, especially the Christmas one. That's like one of the most famous Christmas movies of all time. And he's quite an interesting character, hilarious, right? Absolutely hilarious. But he's also very naughty, I gotta say. But he's got his ascendant Sun and Neptune in Venus. Sun and Neptune are in the 12th. That's great for acting. Moon in Aquarius conjunct South Node in Aquarius. And then, so he's got pretty much got like a grand air trine. So brilliant and hilarious, right? Gemini, Uranus, Mars, Saturn. Saturn is stationary. So he's got this kind of thing that's like very, very dry humor. He plays like this, it's like his humor comes from the fact that he's giving the appearance of being very kind of like sober father, just straight, narrow, like, blue collar or whatever, but he's a total, F up. Like he just messes up, and he's like, it's very slapsticky, goofy. But in real life, because this is the 8th house, he's probably doing some devious stuff. I'm just saying, Mars and Saturn together are very intense. So is Uranus. He likes stimulation. Let's put it that way. I've heard he's forgotten. He's one of these Hollywood people. I know there's a lot of them, so he's definitely not alone in this, but been so coked off his rear that he's forgotten whole episodes of things that he's done. In any case, I'm sure he likes to drink. I'm sure he likes other 8th house stuff, including sex, which who doesn't, but some people really like it. In any case, Mercury's in Virgo, so it's exalted. Venus conjunct Chiron in Virgo. So Venus in Virgo is quite picky. Venus is debilitated in Virgo, but yeah, it can still do okay, right? It can still do okay because Venus, being the sensibility of artistry and aesthetics and fashion design and creativity, has an excelled sense of that in Virgo. It's like very, very critical mindset about, knows exactly what it wants and knows exactly how it wants it. And it might be like extremely hard to deal with because they're just so picky. Virgo is very critical and picky, obviously. But they can be spot on with their sense of beauty, aesthetics, fashion, design, artistry, all those, Venusian type things. It is square Uranus, so Venus being his indulgences, he probably likes those stimulants. Yeah, but highly talented, hilarious, Jupiter, North Node, Pluto in the Leo in the MC. So yeah. And he's another one, like just totally iconic, totally colorful character, unique, one of a kind, irreplaceable. Got a south node and moon. That's interesting though. Definitely. It makes a very sharp mind and even psychic. But for him in Aquarius, he's probably ruined his psychic potential by indulgence. Most certainly. Any guys. All right. That is Chevy Chase in Virgo. So who else has in Virgo? Friedrich Nietzsche, Catherine Deneuve, Julio Iglesias, Roger Waters, Larry Ellison, and Gloria Gaynor. Interesting. All right. Let's go to Libra. And we're going to go to Mr. Bill Clinton, the wife of the crime boss. Yeah, so look at all this Libra in conjunct his ascendant Mars, which is in detriment. Neptune, Venus in domicile. So remember, Venus in domicile, strong Venus can mean somebody who's very indulgent. It doesn't have to mean that, right? But for a man, it's more. For a woman with a strong Venus, makes beauty, right? For a man, it can make somebody beautiful, or it can make somebody very indulgent, right? Which one do you think Bill Clinton is? I mean, hey, anyway. Chiron and Jupiter, also in Libra, very strong first house, but super talker, right? Super ability to schmooze and talk his way out of anything. There's one infamous scene where he's like being questioned about something, and he's like, "What is the definition of is?" And it's like, "Are you serious, Bill Clinton? You're gonna ask what it, or it depends on what the definition of is." Something like that. It's ridiculous, right? So yeah, moon's in Taurus, exalted in the 8th house, love sex. All right, so moon's ruling his MC. It's in the 8th house. Guy, so when the MC is in the 8th house, you're either an astrologer, a sex worker, or a criminal, or maybe like an oil baron, oil tycoon, or like miner, right? You own coal mines, or you're a miner yourself, or you're like a diamond, like steel mines, diamond mines, any treasure hunter, things like that, detective. But you're doing something secret and in the 8th house, and the porn stars have this, criminals have this, so it's something. He's definitely a devious kind of guy. Mr. Been to Epstein Island a billion times, right? Sun in Leo, huge Leo stellium, so ego, it's out of control with this guy. Pluto in Leo, the boomer generation are quite, I mean, overconfidence, hubris is very strong with that generation. Let me put it that way. Everything is direct with him except for the nodes, which is normal. So he's extremely smooth character, and just sly guy, sly Willie, slick Willie is what they call him. Extremely direct. Direct means smooth, and without retrogrades, that means smooth. And then the Libra is like, oh my gosh. But Chiron in the 1st house, conjunct Venus. Venus is his ascendant lord. Hasn't hurt him one bit. Certainly his looks have deteriorated over the years, but it's and then North Node conjunct Uranus. That's for politics. So a lot of times you'll see a prominent Uranus for politicians, because Uranus gets them thinking about social, political things. So anyway, that's Bill Clinton, total deviant, and with Neptune in Libra in the 1st conjunct detrimental Mars. He's a liar. I'm just straight up liar, actor, pretender, faker, just talk his way out of anything. I mean, the guy is just pure butter as far as that's concerned. All right. Freddie Mercury, Liz Green, who is also an astrologer, F. Scott Fitzgerald, who is the great author, Mary Shelley, Barry Gibb, who is from the Bee Gees, and Keith Moon, the drummer from the Who. Let's go to Scorpio. Now Scorpio, we're gonna pull up somebody quite deviant. Lucky Luciano, gangster, mafioso. All right, mafioso, Lucky Luciano, famous. Saturn's his ascendant lord, Sag MC. Saturn. So Mars, tightly conjunct Sun, tightly conjunct Saturn, tightly conjunct Moon, and then Mercury's a little further out there. So very aggressive, right? Especially because Moon's there. So Moon, Saturn, also Mars, very aggressive. Moon is the feminine, sensitive part, right? So you can tell like he's definitely going to be aggressive towards those who are vulnerable, right? As a career. Jupiter, MC Lord, in the 8th. Same as Bill Clinton. This guy is a career criminal. What is Bill Clinton? I mean, you tell me, right? Definitely something. Venus conjunct Chiron conjunct Uranus in Scorpio. Scorpio, but Scorpio. Right? 9th house. So his belief, his philosophy is very deep, dark. You know, Scorpio is one of the main signs. Scorpio, Pluto, 8th house. It's one of the main signs, archetypes for criminality because it's dominating others, controlling others, shared resources, you know, and if it's a negative, if you're sharing resources in a negative way, that means what's yours is mine. That's sharing resources. It's like, give me your cash. We're sharing resources. So a lot of criminals have very strong Scorpio elements because that dominating. It's a relationship sign that wants to dominate. It's not equal relationships. Libra is equal relationships, but this is Jupiter in Libra, but it's 8th house, right? So he believes in, you know, Jupiter, philosophy, religion. He believes in criminality, you know. I think he ran prostitution rings, stuff like that. North Node in Capricorn, so very business minded. And then Pluto conjunct Neptune, power and control, Neptune, lies and deception, drugs, alcohol, opposite. So mainly opposite Mercury. So Mercury opposite Pluto. Mercury is, even though this opposition, Mercury is bonifying this Pluto in Gemini, 4th house. So homeland, you know, home turf, power control, lies, deception, drugs, alcohol, things like that. So it's pretty, you know, it's pretty strong for a career in criminality, and, you know, business, materialism, North Node, 12th house, secrecy, you know, hidden things. All right, that is Scorpio. And who else has it in Scorpio? Hillary Rodham Clinton, the other crime lord, Kevin Kline, Richard Dreyfuss, and George Gershwin. And Richard Dreyfuss has a different he's doing things quite differently. He's much more of a patriot instead of a crime lord. So let's go to Sagittarius, and we're pulling up another famous crime lord. And what's amazing about this is you're going to see the similarity between Lucky Luciano and Al Capone, born within a couple of years of each other, and belonged to the same gang, a 5 Points gang in New York City originally, right? So he's a Pisces instead of Aquarius ascendant, but Moon, North Node in Capricorn, Mercury in Capricorn. Both had North Node in Capricorn. Both have MC and Sag, right? And then a Sag stellium. So he's a boss. Saturn, so Sun, North Node, Mercury in Capricorn, 11th house, boss of a group, and then MC Saturn. So also, you know, when Saturn's in the MC, that's definitely somebody who wants to be a leader, an authority, a controller. right? And then Venus conjunct Chiron, and then Uranus still in Sag, but then Jupiter in Scorpio in the 8th house, right? And Venus ruling the 8th cusp in the 9th, 10th. So it's kind of that 8th, 9th, and 10th are all mingling energies, right? Crime, philosophy, and career. So it's very similar, you can see, to Lucky Luciana. Same planet, Jupiter, Sag, MC, 8th, right? Different sign, but and then Mars in Cancer. So Mars is debilitated in Cancer, is retrograde. That is in the 5th house of entertainment, and he was more into booze running. I think Lucky Luciano was more into prostitution, running, a pimp. But they were both crime lords. I mean, bottom line. Mars in Cancer can be very violent, for certain. Mars dispositing the 9th, Mars ruling the 9th house and the 2nd. So at least the 9th for philosophy, religion, violent, believing in violence, right? Mars in Cancer, retrograde. Same Pluto, Neptune conjunction in Gemini. Pluto opposite Venus, right? Saturn opposite Neptune. So still a very similar kind of thing. A lot of squares, a lot of harsh aspects. And the only harmonious aspects are Jupiter, which is in harmonious aspect to the nodes. But still very intense, Aries moon, so it kind of believes in this aggressive quality. Yeah, so really interesting. A lot of similarities to Lucky Luciano. Jupiter is the ascendant lord. It's in the 8th house in Scorpio. All right. So who else has it in Sag? Gerard Depardieu, Samuel L. Jackson, and Benjamin Netanyahu. And let's go to Capricorn. And I think this guy, Howard Stern, calls himself the king of all media. He's such an egotist. I used to like him because he was so controversial. Or, I mean, at least for the time originally when he was on in it was like the 80s, 90s. Anyway, he's gotten to be quite a jerk. Quite a first-class royal jerk. In any case, huge Capricorn stellium in the 6th house, right? For everyday kind of, radio, obviously. 6th house. Right? South node, Uranus, in the 12th house. So Uranus is very social, political, but also just quite shocking, independent, rebellious, unique. Moon in Taurus in the 10th. Mars ruling the MC. Mars in Scorpio conjunct Saturn in the 4th. And this is very sexual. It's like Scorpio is very sexual, right? Mars and Saturn, 4th house, so at home. So he likes to be very, very sexual at home, and even aggressive. Mars and Saturn. Yeah, Pluto in the 1st. I mean, potentially, look at all these squares. I mean, it just doesn't feel good to me. But in any case, Chiron is closer to the sun and Mercury, but it's still close to Venus. And it's influencing all that. And he also is like a comic book character, just so exaggerated. Of course, his Jupiter's in Gemini, so his higher connection to God, wisdom, and it's also ruling the 9th house. Is it's limited. It's Jupiter is in detriment. His Jupiter is all about Gemini, media, communication. And it's Venus in conjunct Venus. So the relationship between Venus and Jupiter is off, right? It's not a very Venus relating to women. So he doesn't believe in treating women well. Let's put it that way. And Venus is in Capricorn, which is not great for Venus, I would say. Love of materialism. North node conjunct Sun, which is like overbloated ego, generally a lot of times, but connection to fame as well. Pluto in conjunct North Node and the Sun and Chiron and Mercury, and by extension Venus. So that is the ego in this guy is just tremendous. But yeah, that's Howard Stern working in daytime radio. You know, that's very, very strong for him. Also Moon opposite Saturn and Scorpio is kind of difficult, quite difficult. So, actually Neptune is square the nodes, conjunct the fourth house. So that's really interesting. I mean, Neptune for, you know, acting, radio, you know, putting on a show, stuff like that, but also it's not I don't know, not very honest, I think. But he's not an honest guy. I mean, he's an actor basically. Any case, that's Howard Stern. Who else has in Capricorn? William Blake, Caroline Myss. She was a wellness author and mystic. Katie Seagal, who's an actress. Lee Strasberg, who is a theater director and teacher. Let's go on to Aquarius with Mr. Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson is pretty unique because he's not only an A-list Hollywood actor, he's also a tremendous movie maker, and he's extremely independent from Hollywood. Like, he does things according to his own design and will that's completely regardless, and, you know, often in the face of the rest of Hollywood. He's not a liberal, he's a conservative, but it's not that I don't have my critique of Mel Gibson. I mean, his religious fervor is quite dogmatic, and we could see that, first of all, North MC in Pisces, ninth whole sign house. So definitely a career relating to religion and philosophy, with Jupiter ruling it. Jupiter is in Virgo. So Jupiter in Virgo is not in good dignity. So like, that's where you get this kind of religious dogmatism, because also it's conjunct Pluto. Pluto's in Leo, but still close enough. They're still conjunct. So there's kind of a religious obsession that is both dogmatic and like heavy-handed and like, yeah, really not that tasteful. I mean, in my opinion, it's just over the top. I mean, he's been quite anti-Semitic, vocally, verbally. And that's not really understanding spirituality. I mean, if you're, you know, there are people who take the religious path who really are develop high level of spirituality. But if you use your religion kind of as a weapon against all the other religions, or even just one in specific, that's a misuse of it. That's somebody who's not understanding the deeper meaning of spirituality, of God, of the soul. In any case, he is quite an interesting character, though. Look at the tremendous resonance between the planets. 1 degree Uranus, 1 degree Jupiter, 0 degree Moon, 0 degree Neptune, 29 degree Saturn in Scorpio, and then 29 degree Mercury in Capricorn. See, when you have all of this evenly spaced planets that are within one degree of each other, it creates an order, a very orderly frame of mind, right? And with his ability to write movies, then it flows. It translates, right? All that order translates into like a movie that has these very evenly orderly kind of dimensions and plots and way of being. So he can write good movies and he can act. You know, Sun in the 7th is very good for performance, being on stage, not good for relationships, right? 8th house Venus, conjunct Chiron, that's very deep, raw, authentic, aggressive, sexual, gritty, toothy. 8th house, Scorpio, Pluto, for all its detractions, gives you like teeth, right? When they say it does have teeth, yeah. Scorpio, 8th house stuff has teeth, right? It'll bite you. It's gonna, give you that quality, that depth, that authenticity that we love, right? Plus, he's got Mars and Saturn and Scorpio in the 4th. I mean, that's pretty heavy-handed, aggressive, but for movies it works. Right? See, Jupiter square Saturn, even though it's out of sign, it's still that's pretty intense. Again, for this kind of dogmatic belief system, that's that's pointing to that. Uranus opposite Mercury, creating a very argumentative, but kind of brilliant mind at the same time. So he's got a lot going on. Moon in, well, 4th, I guess you could say, happy at home, right? But it's pretty well spread out in the lower half. South node in the 12th in Gemini, and then North node in the 6th in Sag. So very quite diverse, for acting and directing. And then this Venus Chiron in the 8th, which I already said, that's quite good. Venus in Aquarius, that's going to be good sense of humor, right? So he's adding so many different dimensions to his movies and acting. Let me just check here. Nothing really stands out. Mars is in domicile. Mars is ruling the 5th house for entertainment, and 10th whole sign house. Even though it's not his career, even though it's not his MC, it's still influencing the career. It's taking up most of the 10th house. But Jupiter also the 3rd house, media, communication, expression. Yeah, so that's Mel Gibson. Just the harmony, the order, all these trines, Moon trine Mercury, great for expressing the heartfelt quality. Uranus trine Saturn. Yeah, that's Uranus trine Saturn is not so rebellious, right? But the Uranus square Neptune, that's interesting. I haven't really given that much thought. Definitely could be issues with drugs and alcohol, delusions, but might be very interesting for creativity. And then also that plays into, that's a part of this T square with Mercury. Mercury square Neptune, whoa. Yeah, definitely he can lose his grip on reality at times, for sure. But brilliant at the same time. Mercury, Uranus, Neptune, great for movies. All right. So yeah, I mean, these claims that Mel Gibson is crazy, I wouldn't say he's crazy, but definitely he has his times, his moments where he can lose touch with reality, for sure. All right. Who else has it in Aquarius? Ellen DeGeneres, Gary Oldman, Sade Adu, Alec Baldwin, Rudolph Steiner, Christine Lagarde, and oh yeah, she's the EU Central Bank president, if you don't know who that is, Christine Lagarde. In any case, let's go on to Pisces. And Benicio del Toro, he's a great actor. I mean, I love him in every single thing he does. I don't know why. I just think he's amazing. And it makes sense when you look at his chart, because, I mean, first of all, look at this, just tremendous grand trine in water, grand water trine. Of course, also Gemini ascendant and moon. So very familiar to me, but Jupiter as part of this grand water trine, Jupiter exalted in Cancer, conjunct the third house cusp, and then Neptune in Scorpio, and then Venus exalted in Pisces. This is tremendous. I mean, 10th house, Venus exactly conjunct Chiron, part of this grand water trine. I mean, amazing. Sun in Pisces, Mercury in Pisces, Saturn in Pisces, Chiron, Venus in Pisces, and this is all in the 10th house, moving into the 11th house cusp. So Venus basically conjunct the 11th house cusp, so popularity, career success, right? When there's a strong 11th house, you can really attract a lot of followers, right? North Node in Taurus in the 12th for acting. Excellent. Creativity, right? As ascendant lord is debilitated and in detriment, but because it's conjunct Venus, he'd probably also be quite good at music. Now, I don't know anything about his musical abilities, but like music, poetry, that sort of thing. He could probably be very good at that because his sense of aesthetics and beauty is very profound and unique, enhanced by this Chiron, going to big, bold places with Chiron there. Now, Moon is square Venus, so there's some dissatisfaction. In fact, Pluto and Uranus are conjunct in Virgo. This is that 60s conjunction, opposite Uranus and opposite Venus, Chiron, and Mercury. That's interesting. And then let's square the moon in Gemini. So he might be a bit crazy. He might be a bit crazy at times, especially moon square Uranus. Yeah. I mean, all these Hollywood people, when they get some money, then they can afford, they can really afford to live out all of their insanity. Moon in conjunct Neptune and Scorpio. Definitely, I would say this guy probably has a regular drug habit or alcohol habit. I mean, a lot of them do because they can afford it. They don't have to work regular jobs. They just appear in movies, with their grand trines and, exalted planets. And they're just like, hey, look at me, I'm awesome. And then they just go off and party for the rest of the time. It's not unusual, right? South Node conjunct this Mars. And I mean, this guy has a loaded chart. Mars is in Scorpio and South Node in the 6th house. He's a fighter. Like, I mean, Mars gains tremendous strength in the 6th house and in Scorpio. Like, he's a real life. I bet when he was young, he was really fighting people and he could, kick their ass. But he's a great actor, but I'm sure he has his problems. Major. He's dissatisfied and quite crazy at times, or likes to get crazy. Moon in the 1st is very expressive. Yeah. This T-square is see, Venus would be ruling. Venus would be his women that he likes to be with, and as well as, well, it's ruling the 12th house, so his creativity. The 12th house is also escapism, and most of the 5th house, so having fun. Opposite Pluto and Uranus, that's kind of definitely strong stimulation, especially with the Venus, right? Venus, which is indulgence, exalted, Venus, opposite Pluto. Yeah, and then the moon there too. That's very sensitive. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I sense that he's hypersensitive with all this water, and that he's turning to drugs and alcohol to deal with it. And this moon, wacky moon. In any case, yep, that's Benicio del Toro, and great actor, but I'm sure he has his problems. Kurt Cobain is another one, quite similar in many ways. Pisces, Venus and Chiron. And then Ronald Reagan, also an actor and a politician, obviously. Conan O'Brien. Sorry, I couldn't read my own writing. Richard Nixon, Steve Irwin, The Undertaker, wrestler, and Gary Kasparov, who was a chess master, right? A famous chess master. And that is it for Venus conjunct Chiron. And I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you learned something. And I hope you will, if any of you watching this are afraid of Chiron, I hope you'll stop being afraid of Chiron, because you can certainly do tremendous things. And if it is a difficult aspect, there's still tremendous gain to come out of it. You just need to work with it a bit more to get there. You know, to overcome its shortcomings, its weaknesses, which may be rejection, wounds, things that need healing. There's a tremendous upside to Chiron that I've shown again and again and again, and you'll see even more with, you know, the further videos if you watch them. So guys, don't forget to hit the like button, please, if you can, and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts about this video, or Chiron, or Venus, or Chiron conjunct Venus, or anything else. And come to my class on the 29th. The topic will be retrogrades. I'm going to make a presentation about that, and just email me to get on the list. That'll be Sunday, January 29th. And book a reading with me. My website is macroastrology.com. My email is macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. And that's it for now. I'll see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.